The house looked ordinary, but some houses don't just hold memories, they hold the dead. And in Yungaburra, something was waiting for us.
Whispers at the Crossroads.
Explore the unknown, the unexplained, and the utterly terrifying. I'm your host Dee, and today I want to share a story that still makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck. This isn't just another ghost story you've heard floating around online. This one is mine. It happened to me, my husband, and our children. It's a true account of the time we encountered something far beyond our understanding. Something that left us shaken, terrified, and forever changed. This is the story of the Yungaburra Poltergeist. About 10 years ago, we decided to take a leap. My husband, our 2 children and I packed up and moved to Yungaburra, a quaint historic village nestled in the Atherton Tablelands of far North Queensland, Australia. If you've never been there, picture this. Tree-lined streets that look like they've been frozen in time. Old tin-roofed Queenslanders, most over 100 years old, with paint peeling just enough to give them that eerie kind of charm. It's the kind of town where every building has a history, everybody knows each other, and everybody has a story to tell. We found this house, a very old Queenslander, right in the heart of the village. It was humble, honestly, it was cheap. A little shabby and bloody freezing in winter. You could feel the cold rising through the floorboards at night. But we didn't care, the location was perfect. We were close to the pub, the kids' school, and all the cute little shops. It felt like the start of a new chapter for us. For the first few months, life was simple. But there was this feeling, you know, when a house just doesn't feel right? Like something is wrong, like the air is heavier than it should be. I'd catch myself glancing over my shoulder for no reason. I'd always see things out of the corner of my eye. And I had this sinking feeling that something was watching me. Then one day I was in the kitchen and I saw him, an old man walking casually through the backyard. He had an axe slung over his shoulder. At first, I thought maybe he was lost, but then he just disappeared into the back fence, like literally vanished before my eyes. That night I told my husband, and I said, I saw a man in the yard today, he had an axe and he just disappeared. His face drained of colour, and then he asked, was he wearing a red flannelette shirt? Wow. My blood ran cold because yes, exactly that. And we hadn't discussed it prior. We tried to shrug it off. We wanted to believe it was a trick of the light or some weird shared hallucination. But a few days later, our daughter, who was only 14 at the time, came to me, pale and shaking. She said, "Mum, I saw a man in the backyard. He had an axe." My heart dropped to the floor. The fear in her voice told me this wasn't my imagination. Whatever I had seen, she had seen it as well. After that, the house changed. It was like something in the air had shifted, thick and heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. We'd wake up to the kitchen in disarray, cupboards flung open, chairs pulled out. We'd hear footsteps at night, footsteps that didn't belong to anyone living. I'll admit, I was dabbling in a little witchcraft at the time. It wasn't anything dark. I was just learning, experimenting, connecting with the seasons. Looking back now, I wonder if I accidentally invited something in, or at the very least, amplified what was already there. The turning point was just after Samhain. I performed a ritual with another witch friend, calling on ancestors. We were just calling on spirits for guidance. We made offerings, lit candles. But I have this deep, unshakable feeling that something else came through, something that wasn't meant to be there. After that night, everything escalated. The footsteps became louder, faster. I'd be lying in bed, the kids asleep, and I'd hear the sensor lights flicking on. I'd see the light under the door. One by one, they'd come on. It was like something was moving closer to our bedroom. But when I opened the door, there was nothing. No wind, just silence. My daughter started to change. She wasn't sleeping. She'd wake up with scratches and bruises that she couldn't explain, saying, "Mum, something's hurting me at night." At this point, we started really freaking out. One weekend, during the Yungaburra Folk Festival that happens once a year, we had a bunch of friends camping out in our backyard. One of them was an experienced witch. She offered to stay back and watch the kids for us while we went out. When we returned, she looked like she'd seen a ghost, and she said, "Dee, you have a poltergeist." No hesitation, no doubt, just those words. The worst night of all, I'll never forget it. The kids were watching TV in the lounge. My husband was relaxed on the couch, and I went to the bathroom. And that's when I felt it. A sudden drop in the temperature, like I'd stepped into a freezer. Then a whisper, low, jumbled, right against my ear. I couldn't even make out the words, but I felt them. My heart slammed against my ribs and I panicked. I bolted out of the bathroom, my underwear around my ankles, completely humiliated but too terrified to care. That was the breaking point. That night I dragged a mattress into the lounge room for the kids and surrounded them with a circle of salt. I wasn't taking any chances. My husband and I stayed awake all night, whispering and discussing about how we would break our lease, how we'd find the money to move, how we'd leave. Then, as he stood up, he said, "That's it. We're out of here." Then suddenly his head jerked backwards. It was almost like something had pulled him. I saw the fear in his eyes, and that was it. We were done. Whatever it was, it had turned physical and it could hurt us. It was just like in the movies, We packed up the car in the middle of the night, threw in clothes, blankets, the kids, the dogs. I didn't even stop to grab half of my things. We left, we fled in the middle of the night, and I never, ever stepped foot in that house again. My husband went back over the next few days to collect the rest of our belongings, clean up, get the place ready, but I refused. Even thinking about crossing that threshold made my stomach twist. It would stop my breath. I would have a panic attack at the idea. I just couldn't face it. Weeks later, we spoke to our neighbour, whose family had lived on that street for generations. I casually mentioned the Axeman, expecting them to laugh it off. But instead they said, "Oh, that's Uncle so-and-so." I can't recall the name he said now, but he knew exactly who we were talking about. He said he used to chop everyone's wood back in the 1950s, but he shot himself, and people still see him around to this day, in their backyards, an apparition perhaps, just going about his own business. But then I looked at him and said, "But there's something else. There's something else in that house." His face dropped. He looked at me like he absolutely knew what I was talking about. He said, "Yeah, that house, it has a dark history." He could think of 3 people he knew had died in our daughter's bedroom. That scared me. It scared me so much. But we tried to get on with our life. Even in our new place, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, convinced I could hear the footsteps creeping along the hallway, just like in Yungaburra. It took me a long time to feel safe again. For months, I would avoid mirrors at night, terrified that I'd catch a glimpse of something that wasn't supposed to be there. Even the sound of wood chopping from a distance made my skin crawl. The worst part was watching my kids try to make sense of what had happened. How do you explain to your children that sometimes the world doesn't play by the rules we know? That there are things we can't see, but they can hurt you all the same. For my daughter, it was a long time before she felt comfortable sleeping alone again. Even now, if I bring up that house, she'll go quiet. We all do. Do you believe it followed us? I'm not sure. For weeks after moving, I had vivid nightmares, dreams where I was back in that house where doors slammed shut and something dragged me down the hallway. But eventually, as time passed, the dreams faded. I think maybe it just wanted us gone, and when we left, it let go. Still, I can't help but wonder, was it all because of me? Did my curiosity with witchcraft open the door? Or was that house already cursed long before we arrived? The truth is, Yungaburra is a place steeped in history. So many of those beautiful old Queenslander homes are full of stories, some happy, some tragic. The house we lived in wasn't just old wood and tin. It felt like it carried every ounce of pain, anger, and grief from the lives that had passed through its walls. I don't think I'll ever forget that feeling, the sense that we were not alone, no matter how many times we tried to tell ourselves otherwise. And maybe that's the scariest thing of all. Sometimes when you're standing in the dark, it's not your imagination. Something might really be standing there with you, watching, waiting.
Shadows linger where the roads collide. Moonlight soft glow won't let them hide. A voice in the dark calls out my name. Whispers at the crossroads play their